Hello there, avid listeners. Thanks again for tuning into Sin's Workshop. Hope you're all having a wonderful day. Today we're going to be talking about A Mirror Mended by Alex E. Haro. This is the second novel in her Fractured Fairy Tales series, follow-up to A Spindle Splintered. And, of course, our protagonist, Zinnia, is still traversing the multiverse of fairy tales, namely Sleeping Beauty. Honestly, I like how the book opens up, because you can see how disillusioned she kind of is. If you remember the first book, she was so gung-ho with fairy tales, specifically Sleeping Beauty, because her life expectancy was expected to run out at 21. She was not expected to live longer than that. So she was obsessed with the tale of Sleeping Beauty. But now, she's lived this tale. She has survived it. She's helping other people break their curses. And, it's kind of just becomes super tedious for her. She's like, it's kind of lost its shine, this happily ever after. She wants something new in her life. She wants some excitement. And she doesn't really want to go back to the real world, because going back means her life begins to tick away again, and she doesn't want that anymore. And now she fell through a mirror. Now, what fairy tale do we know has a mirror? Well, none other than Snow White. And who is she helping this time? Oh, not Snow White, not the little girl. No, she is helping the one and only wicked stepmother. The one who wishes to be fairest of them all. Now, she doesn't really want to, It's like, you're the villain. Oh, I'm not going to help you. But really, what does it mean to make a villain? And I like how, the first story really did subvert your expectations. It subverted making your own happiness. It subverted, that sexist undertone that, existed in fairy tales. And, they very much were a product of their time. We're still analyzing that, but we're also analyzing it through the lens of what makes a villain. Oh, well, here you have a woman. She is unmarried. She is a widow. She has power. Clearly, she must be up to no good. Clearly, she must be a villain, since she does not bend to the will of men, right? She wants to hold her own. She wants her autonomy. And it takes Zinnia a while to really see, like, wow, you're actually not a villain. It takes her a while to realize, wow, you're very much a lot like the Dark Fairy from, Sleeping Beauty. You're not a villain. You are just a product of your time. You're just a product of your environment. But everything you're doing is just to keep yourself safe. You're a foreigner, You're a foreign woman in charge of a kingdom. No one really wants you. Everyone thinks you bewitched the former king. Everyone now thinks you killed the king. So it's all about what makes the villain. What are those tropes that make a villain? My God, I wish I were back in college in my fairy tale class. I would just slam this book on my teacher's desk and be like, okay, we need to talk about this book here. There's a lot to unpack, just like with the first one. I think it's great that in the span of 144 pages, there's so much that's happening. There's so much subtext. There's so much language. Haro really is such a talented writer, because she makes you think. She uses her words carefully. Her word choice is amazing. Her syntax, her structure, her pacing. She doesn't have to use 300, 400 pages to tell her story. She can get it done in 144 pages, and it's still just as impactful and as thoughtful, right? And that's really what I took away from this narrative, just how engaging it is. I really do love fairy tales. Don't get me wrong. But I really just love how Haro is taking them apart, disassembling them, and God, I had the word and I lost the word. She's reinventing them. There we go. She's reinventing these classic fairy tales in a way that makes them engaging. And again, she is subverting all expectations. She is subverting what it means to be a villain, what it means to have a happily ever after. And again, there is that question of, what is your happily ever after? Happiness is what you make of it. It is what you make of it. Your happiness is what you make of it. And for Xin, she's not really living. She's just kind of going through the motions. And you see that in the beginning of the book, especially when she says, my former best friend. And you're just like, okay, whoa, what the heck happened? You're questioning it, you're questioning, who is this girl at this point? It's just like, wait a second, what happened to that girl from book 1? She's gone through a lot. She cheated death, not forever, but for the time being. She's running away into fairy tale after fairy tale after fairy tale so that she can escape her own fate, so she can, kind of stop living. But it's having a lot of unforeseen circumstances. And that's why her friend is her former friend, because just like, hey, your actions have consequences. By going through universe after universe after universe, she's blurring those lines between the universes, so they're folding in together. So glass slippers are appearing in our world, and books from our world are appearing into others, and people are jumping into other fairy tales that are not their own. There's a lot happening, and Xin doesn't really want to look at those consequences, because that means she has to really stop and think about her own life, and she has to think about, wow, I'm kind of just screwing up the fabric of the universe, aren't I? Because of her desire to want to live. And you can't really fault her for that, but is she really living, By her running away repeatedly, is she really living a life she wants to live? I mean, she's not at home with her family. She's not at home with her friends, both her family made of blood and her found family that she formed with her friend. And a princess, So there's a lot that you have to unpack. It's like your happiness is what you make of it. You get to choose your happiness. But running away and ignoring to face reality, I mean, that's not going to make you happy either. And that's all that Xin is doing. So you get to see her evolve even more as a character. And then as she's teamed up with this villain, jumping through Snow White after Snow White after Snow White, it's more of just like, okay, now what's happening? And then you get to see, there are so many twists and turns, and you're seeing, again, so many other renditions of the same fairy tale, and it's just like, wow, Haro's imagination. I applaud her for her imagination. Her ability to show the reader various different versions of the same fairy tale that take such different turns. And then she's also going forward, where Grimm Fairy Tales ends, she's taking it a step forward. She's like, okay, we have this allusion to something that happened. I don't want to spoil it for you, that's why I'm talking this way. There's this allusion to something that's going to happen. She takes it a step further and goes with it, and I'm just like, this is mind blowing. I love it. I love Haro so much. I'm not ashamed. And I also love that our main protagonist is bisexual. And it's something that's never been explicitly said, And again, I like that. She is just another protagonist who just happens to be bisexual. And I like that exploration of her identity as well, because it is something she struggles with. Her identity, again, she was a dying girl who's given a whole new lease on life. Every time she comes back to the real world from being in the multiverse, it's like the clock resets and she has another 21 years. Can't really fault her for wanting those extra 21 years. I think anyone would. But again, fabric of the universe, falling apart at the seams. So, anyway, if I have to give this book a rating, it's going to be 5 out of 5 stars. Let's face it, it's absolutely spectacular. It is amazing. It is well done. It is well structured. I think Harrow is an amazing, amazing novelist. She is so great with words. Again, I read her other book, Once and Future Witches. Oh my god, that book is so amazing. I cannot stress it enough. And then Spindle Splintered, amazing. And now this one, amazing. Now I have to go back and read 1,000 Doors of January. I'm hoping it's going to be as amazing. But she is such a talented writer. She's imaginative. She's thoughtful. She makes you think. She makes you feel. And that's what I love about a good story. Length doesn't matter, you know? It's how well you can tell the story. And if she can make 144 just as impactful as a 300-page book, then that just shows you just how talented and wonderful she is. I could only aspire to be as talented as her. New goal in life: be as talented as Harrow. Anyway, once again, 5 out of 5 stars for A Mirror Mended. I highly recommend the Fractured Fairy Tale series, beginning with A Spindle Splintered. I really hope that she will continue the series with another installment. If not, I mean, both books had really solid conclusions. After I read A Spindle Splintered, I didn't think there was going to be a sequel, and then bam, another book came out, and I was like, wow, this is really good. And she ends her books on a note that leaves kind of the door open for a future novel, but it's not a cliffhanger. It's just a story. So again, 5 out of 5 stars. If you want to purchase the book, please remember to purchase from your local bookseller or online book retailer. If money is tight, check out the book from your local library. And on that note, I hope you all continue to support me here by liking this podcast, subscribing, and sharing with all your book-loving friends. Have a great rest of your day, and as always, happy reading.